My name's Dave. I'm just a regular punter, and I've just downloaded the podcast Science Shed. Why do I have to listen to it then?
Well, the Science Shed, Dave, is an irreverent ramble through the undergrowth of academia with two academic scientists.
What's an academic scientist?
Well, it's kind of like we're just kind of people that work at universities. I work at the University of Cambridge, and Nick Evans works at the University of Southampton.
And what are you doing there then? What do you do?
Well, we're both researchers, but really we just kind of get together once every 2 weeks and just talk about some interesting things we found.
Sounds like a pretty easy job to me, mate.
It is pretty easy. Pretty cushy lifestyle, to be honest, Dave.
Great.
Well, would you like to hear it?
Yeah, it'd be great, yeah.
All right, let's have a go.
Great. Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Come on, Steve.
Bunsen.
Burner.
Solid.
Machine.
Internal.
Combustion.
Why do we need
Steam.
Petri?
Dishes.
Austin.
Base.
Isaac.
Newton.
Transplanting.
What, Steve? So, what did you think of that mozzarella, tomato, and basil ciabatta that I made you?
That was really good. Nick just made me lunch. It was very kind of him.
Yeah.
We've just come down to Southampton for the day to do a bit of podcasting and to see how Nick's doing. He made me a sandwich. It's very nice. And a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I had to make it myself because he always puts too much milk in. So.
Well, I tell you, I've got very specific needs with my tea.
Needs.
I'd say they were
I
needs.
need them.
They're not preferences, they're
Right.
needs.
Okay.
So my tea has to be brewed to the maximum possible strength of the bag.
I agree.
With the hot water. But then I like to temper the strength by
gets
adding
cold.
a significant proportion of water. I like it at mouth temp. I like it at drinking temperature.
But I can drink it at...
I don't want to have to go sort of go.
No, I like that.
No, I like to go like that, like a pig at a trough.
There's a famous scientific idiom, isn't it? That coffee is a way of turning scientific ideas into papers.
I didn't know
money
that.
Or research money into papers.
That explains why I've not got that many good papers.
'Cause you don't drink coffee. Yeah, it doesn't, and obviously it wouldn't make any sense if it was tea. Anyway. Nick.
Steve.
How you doing?
Hey, got my tea.
So we're refueled, aren't we? Yeah. To carry on. Cup of tea and ready to go. So I was thinking about what we were talking about last week when you went to visit your collaborator in Germany. And there we were talking about two things. We were talking about atomic force microscopy and also kind of owning physical media. And so it got me thinking, I think I've got an idea for a new segment, Nick. So first off, I'm going to start off with a little sound bite. I'm going to play you something. I want you to tell me what it is.
Okay.
All right. You ready? So hopefully we hooked up the laptop here. So hopefully this will work. Let's try it. All right. Do you know what that is?
Sounds like
What is
something like some
It's very
angry
important.
insect trapped in like a jar.
Sounds like an angry insect trapped in a jar.
That's the
It's
thing.
not. It's not that.
That's
No,
like a sort of insect.
do you know what it is? It's the first ever recording of the human voice.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, taken from 1860, which is actually
That late?
Yeah, which when you think about things,
It's so weird, isn't it, when you think about how recent a lot of things that we take for granted.
totally.
Blooming heck.
Yeah, so that's originally was a recording on a phono-autograph, they called it at the time, right? Which is so that someone. This was done before Edison's wax cylinder experiments, which is how people kind of traditionally know.
See, I don't know anything about the how because I know how a record player works.
Yeah. So how does a record player work?
You drag a needle over a surface that's got lumps in it, and it vibrates, and that turns into sound.
So how do you record it? How do you record
I
it?
don't know. I assume that you must do it the other way around. So you make something vibrate that scratches some pattern on something.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's how you do it.
Is that how they did it in that one?
Yeah. So what was really interesting with this one, the way they did it is they did it. Basically, you have to convert the sound waves into some kind of physical form, and then you can read that back. So when you look, if you zoomed in on the grooves of a record, what you actually see is the waveform of the music on there.
I'd love to see that.
I'm about to show you it.
Oh, cool. We have to put this up.
Yeah, we will.
I want to retweet this too.
So that's exactly how it works, right? So what you're doing there is you have a needle, and then that needle is being dragged over a kind of, to record the initial things, which worked in this original recording of 1860. They did it on graphite plates. So they basically covered like a bit of glass in soot. And then they had like a big cone of a voice. Big cone, and then at the end of that, you have a very thin needle. And then you basically shout into the cone, and the compressions of the air from you shouting gets translated to this very fine needle. And then what happens is they move the plate behind the cone, and the needle goes up and down. And that's why it's kind of really noisy, because there's lots of.
I did notice there was some background.
Well, it was the first ever recording.
It reminds me of my copy of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, which is
scratched.
It sounds like it's gone through the wash.
Right. Okay. But so actually, when they first did it, they didn't know how to read it back. So they originally recorded it, and they had no way of actually playing it back. So the time between this being recorded and the first time being played back is like 10 years. They had before they could have the technology to kind of read it back.
That's amazing.
So the same thing happens with the records. You have a needle that gets dragged over a groove. So here's a question for you, Nick. How long's the groove in a record? Do you have any idea of
that? I can probably work it out in a crude form now.
Have a rough guess.
Okay, so the side of a record's about 20 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
That's for argument's sake, 20 minutes. A record rotates at about 33 revolutions per minute. The diameter of a record in the middle is probably in the region of about 10 centimetres.
Yeah.
Right, okay, see where I'm going with this?
I do, yeah. Circumference of a circle is...
Pi d?
That's right, yeah.
2 pi r, pi d.
Yeah.
So that's about 3 and a bit times 10 centimetres. So that's about 0.33 metres.
Yeah.
The circumference.
And then how many ridges? 33
times revolutions per minute. Oh my God, 20 minutes. 20 times 33, 600, 700 odd.
So it's about
700 revolutions times 0.3 of a metre. That's about 3. Couple of hundred metres.
That's very good. It's about 500 meters on a record, and there's lots of so that's good. And is a record stereo or mono? Most records, I should say.
Well, I don't know. I mean, after stereo was invented, records are stereo.
That's true. So there's 2 tracks of sound in the majority of records. So, do you know how that's encoded in a record? It's quite cool.
I don't actually. I would assume that it's all there in one single analog format, but it's somehow
because you can turn it left and you can turn it right on if you put it in an amplifier. They're actually separate tracks are recorded separately.
Are they not like superimposed on each other in the?
No, it's really cool. So
there's 2 needles.
That's one way you could do it, but engineers are even smarter than that. Normally we bash engineers, but I think this is really cool. So if you imagine the needle, and I'm about to show Nick a scanning electron micrograph of a movie of a needle being dragged along these ridges. If you imagine a kind of needle in a valley, which is the record, what happens is each one of the walls of the valley is a different track in the stereo. So the left-hand side of the valley and the right-hand side are different. And as the needle gets dragged through, through the valley, if the valley wobbles a little bit, and the wobbles are the waveform of the left and the right channel in the stereo, and what that's transduced to a magnet that's only sensitive to one axis of the valley. So the reason it's actually
it vibrates in 2 different planes.
Exactly.
Kind of.
It's a vibrating.
And the magnet can separate out the
there's
vibrations.
Two separate magnets. Yeah. So it's actually really cool. So I'm now going to turn around.
It's amazing that, like, I like records and I listen to records a lot. I just like them I like moving things. I'm an old-fashioned guy in that I like to manipulate things in with my hands.
Right.
So if I listen to music, I don't like. Well, I suppose with a computer, you muck around with a computer, but you've been at work all day and you're working computer. I don't want to be squinting at a screen to find some track.
Pick up a big.
I want to think. Well, I want to listen to this at the moment. And I'm going to pop it on.
I think there's definitely a ceremony with vinyl, isn't there?
Yeah,
associated with it. So I'm going to show you now, right? So here's an example of. So this guy actually recorded. It's actually quite difficult to make this recording. So it's surprising he did this. But what you can see here is a needle being dragged through the ridges and the valleys of a record, and we'll post a link to this before. But you can actually see the different waveforms of the valley as the needle is dragged through the groove of the record.
So I'm just watching here. This is a video, and it kind of looks like a Commodore 64 computer game called Captain Blood. When there's lots of valleys that you fly your spaceship down, and it's kind of white, black and white, and there's a huge thing in the middle, like a big prong, which is the needle, and looks like it fits really snugly into the valley, and it's just kind of sliding along and moving around to the left and right as it's dragged.
And those kind of wobbles are just amplified by your record player, and that's the origin of the sound.
You know, when I see things like that, I think maybe it's all made up. And it's magic after all, because when I see that, I'm thinking, no way is that. I look at it and I think that thing can turn that
into a whole lot of love.
I just think, sometimes I think I feel like that dude in the Truman Show.
Right,
Truman.
you think there's some.
I think
you're like, nah,
I'm
not having it. I'm not having it.
Yeah, I can't. Even though I'm a scientist, I can't totally expel that feeling from my.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice. So actually, record. So we used an electron microscope to be able to record that movie I showed, and it's actually very quite difficult to do that because
we have to move something inside the chamber.
Yeah, so
people don't often do live imaging using.
Well, what he did is he basically put it on a translation stage, took a picture, rotated a bit, took a picture, rotated a bit. So it's not actually being played back in real time.
Yeah, so you lose. It's not a true representation of the movement of the needle, perhaps.
Oh no, it's when it's
it'll be where it settles, but there may be effects which are related.
Exactly. Yeah. But it also means that it's very difficult to image with electrons.
I think
that
is
aren't
an
electrically
amazing
conductive.
thing.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah, that is brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm genuinely impressed by that.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully people enjoy it. But yes, it's just really interesting. I think that like vinyl records, you don't think is a new technology, but even there, you can just be astounded by how pretty and beautiful it is.
Fantastic.
Nick, so how was your grant panel?
So
we spoke about that last time on the podcast.
Yeah, so if you listen to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about I was on what's called a grant panel.
Yes, you were deciding who's getting the cash to do the science.
I was involved.
Kind of like a puppet master. Did you feel like you just had all this power?
I felt like I had
Did you feel like the chief of Dark Star Comics
I feel like I had an amount of power disproportionate to my ability.
So you just like
kind of like if Donald Trump was the president.
Exactly. Yeah. I kind of feel like did you feel a little bit like David Bowie in The Labyrinth? Like just playing with that, like contact juggling with that glass ball.
And turning the clock, making the clock doing a really unreasonable thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you felt.
I found it an interesting experience.
So how did it go?
So it was good. So first of all, before I mention anything,
we should recap.
Everything's confidential, but I can talk generally about my experiences. So I've not done it before. I'm a youthful academic. I've been doing it a while, but I'm kind of like I haven't had a huge amount of experience of these sorts of things.
You haven't got that much grey hair.
No, I think I'm very youthful. Well, I'm only 29. So basically, just to recap. So if you're a scientist and you want to do some research, you need some money to do it. In the UK, sources of money are primarily from the government, taxpayer-funded research, which is sort of money which everyone pays in tax. Some of it goes to research because it's considered a way of boosting the economy, basically. And some of it's charitable research. So this grant panel was money which is taxpayers' money. Most of it.
So the average Joe on the street's paying for it. And there's more people that want to do science than there is money to fund that.
Yeah, and this is a research council called the BBSRC, which stands for the Biological and
You should really know that.
BBS, something like
isn't it
biomedical science.
biomedical science,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Oh my God, sorry everybody. But you know, these are acronyms. Make it easier for you.
Anyway,
not acronyms, initialisation.
It's the Biological Research Council.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
So
medical.
it does stuff that ranges from crop science and growing plants to algae to farming chickens, but also sort of generally basic biomedical research. So
Right.
molecular things and science, not molecular things, but things that underpin medicine which aren't necessarily making a treatment.
Right.
So they try and exclude
They don't
things.
focus on diseases.
There's another council called the Medical Research Council. It's another story. It's quite difficult to distinguish sometimes. There's a grey area. Anyway, yeah, so basically you all go, you rock up to, it was a hotel on the outskirts of Swindon.
Right. Very glamorous.
This
bet.
is not, it
Was
used to
everyone
be...
dressed in tuxes? Like,
So-
dark glasses?
some
Entourages?
some people dress well, other people not so well.
Were you in the latter?
Yes. But it's in a hotel on the outskirts of Swindon. It actually used to be a military hospital. Now it's turned into a hotel. But in short, that you can apply. So I actually applied to be on a panel. So what happens is you write an application for money and you send it to the council, and they ask people to look at it and give their opinion of it. They collect it back. The person that writes the application then has a chance to answer any questions. And then it goes to the panel. And they have a lot of applications. So in different rounds, there may be 100, 150 applications, of which about 20%, 1 in 5, will be funded.
Okay.
So there's not, most of them will get rejected. So what happens at the panel is those applications get divvied out to different panel members. So there may be 30 or 40 people on the panel.
Right.
And you, as a panel member, introduce a grant.
So paint the picture. You've got a big room with a table
Yeah.
around the outside and 40 people, all with a little pile of their own grants in front of them that
Exactly.
they've got to tell the others how great or bad the science is.
Exactly, and they have to sort of look at the comments, interpret what's been said, understand the grant, and understand whether the comments that the referees have made are valid based on the response the person wrote. So it's a big job, right? So I hadn't done it before. I invested a lot of time. It's the first time I'd done it. I was very conscientious, and I found it very interesting to do generally. And also,
Is it kind of being on doing jury service? Is there some big personalities that really want a grant?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's really cool.
yeah. So
What's that? Is it 12 Angry Men? What's that film?
it's a
Is it
little bit along those lines. So you've got people of differing personalities. Some of them are very senior people. Some of them are very junior people.
Right.
So there's quite a good
Mix.
I was
That's good.
impressed.
That makes me happy.
I was impressed with the breadth of career stages that were there. Naturally, there's a chair. So a person chairs it, and then there are people who they give the name of the grant, and then you have to say something about the things that you've looked at. So you state what it is and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 of you introducing. You both have to give a score independently.
Oh, really? So
So
every grant's evaluated by
largely-
2 people.
Yeah, so largely, and it's my opinion that the referees are there for a reason.
Right.
So if they've scored a grant highly,
Yeah.
you have to, if you want to say that it's not correct.
You have to make
then-
a really key argument against
So,
that.
I mean, my personal opinion is you should go, it's why the referees are there. Having said that, there was many occasions where there wasn't.
It was
arguments.
overruled.
Yeah, pretty
Interesting.
much.
So
Yeah.
sometimes, so there are examples where someone wrote a grant that the reviewers liked, but actually when you discussed it in this kind of round table, it was decided that it's not of sufficient quality to be
Yeah, but
funded.
it can be only a couple of opinions, that was interesting to see.
Right.
Because, it's always going to be a bit.
And was it quite aggressive? Are people there?
There were some aggressive
Right.
behaviours on display.
Or is it all very kind of English, where everyone's like, "Oh no, that sounds great."
No, there were
It's
were
not.
definitely.
Good.
Oh, well, academics are generally of a
Dicks.
They've got a particular personality type.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend who works for the BBSRC.
Yeah.
I met up with him afterwards, and his girlfriend, and we discussed, just general matters regarding it. And he was saying that a lot of people are sort of Ent J characters. Have you heard of this?
No.
Myers-Briggs personality test?
Oh, Ent J, yeah, okay, yeah.
So you were definitely an Ent J.
No, I'm ENTP.
Oh, I was Ent P. Maria did it for me and did it with me in the car.
Yeah.
And I turned out to be an Ent P. But I would say you're an Ent J.
No. Every time I've done it, I'm that.
Ent P.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an Ent P. Anyway, so...
The inventor, they call it.
I can't remember. P is for perceiving.
Yeah.
J is for like judging or something. So I'm a bit more glad that I'm a P than a J.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there was a lot of discussion, and I would say, as processes go, and it's never going to be totally fair, I was impressed with the level of fairness. Having said that, I think there's a fair amount of noise in the system.
There's some people that can play the game, kind of thing.
Well, there's certain things, and as a reviewer, and you can see, as someone who's sitting on the panel, you can see what the scores are, but you can also see who's refereed, who the referee is. So you can start to get a feel for whether there might be reasons.
Right.
So sometimes the people who referee it, have some interactions with the person who submitted the grant.
So it's in their interest for that
all
work
of
to
the
be funded.
conflicts of interest are declared, but it's up to the BBSRC to choose who's going to do this.
And to be fair, it sounds a bit nefarious, but it's not, because you can imagine if you're working with someone in that particular area, you could end up it's not surprising that you're actually well qualified to evaluate that grant. So you may not be exactly overlapping, but you could easily be.
But if you're a competitor,
you're going to be like,
hell
no.
Yeah. One part of you encourages you.
Yeah.
Because you can see it's fair. So if you've generally got a good application, it has an increased chance of getting through. The background, I always thought, people, and this is true, if you've published a lot of nature science publications, it's a fact that you're more likely to get a grant.
Yeah, which is kind of fair enough.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, not
success.
exclusively.
It's like a kind of capitalist thing: the rich gets richer all the time.
But you've demonstrated you're doing interesting work at the highest possible level.
That's true. And so I certainly saw evidence of that, but less than I would have thought. People who had less impressive track records were not excluded based on that.
Good. That's great.
Yes.
So it was about the idea, whether the idea was good, rather than whether the person was good.
That was what most of the discussion was about.
That's great.
So that encouraged me. I was discouraged because some of them were just amazingly good. So you're always competing with really, really...
And you're like, oh man, that's so good.
How are you going to compete with some of that? Some of it was really good stuff.
Inspirational.
So it also, if you're on a panel, you get more of an insight into how things are reviewed. Yeah. So it can help you pitch them and write them better. You know the sorts of things that get flagged up. Yeah. It's quite interesting as well. You're, as a panel member, let's say 40 of you, you're never going to read 150 applications. So you're talking... So just to give you an idea, there's probably, related to a grant application, size of A4, when you include everything, you're probably talking 50 pages that you've got to get through.
And you had 150
You've probably
proposals.
got 15 pages of stuff which is absolutely essential, and then you've got another 35 pages of information which is important. So if you try and read all those, it's just not possible. But I read a few of the others as well, and I was able to comment on them. And
you mean when they came up?
But you can. This is the thing, on a panel, you can make a relatively small point, and it can alter the course of
propagate. Yeah.
So and that happens. But it's kind of like, I mean, it's an open process, but it depends on how much people have read around the background.
That's really interesting.
So I enjoyed it, and also it was fun because there were some other people I met.
How long did it take?
2 solid days.
Just non-stop all day.
Well, the first day you meet early in what?
In Swindon.
In Swindon, yeah. Well, I went out because it's 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was a Thursday and a Friday, and I went out on the Friday afternoon because just out the door. Yeah. To have a coffee, and I thought, oh my God, I've not actually been out since I arrived. Because it's intense. It's it's 11 or 12 hour days of stuff, and it's meetings. So you can't just nod off.
Pay attention.
Oh yeah, you got to pay attention. But yeah, I thought I was encouraged by it more than discouraged,
Well, that's
based on my
great.
previous knowledge.
Well, science continues to progress
But I
in
think
a good way.
I think there's noise in the system, so I think
You think some
I would
sneaks
advise
through that we shouldn't have done?
well, yes, and I would
I feel
advise
like that is a bad grant.
my advice to you've got to write. So first
Yeah.
of all, I think you've got to write a good grant because you're going to get found out if it's not a well-written grant
Yeah.
with a it's got to be. It has to be understandable at a basic level.
Yeah, what's
So
the
I think
question? How are you going to address
getting
it?
that across really quickly is important.
Yeah.
But then, of course, all the details are important. But my advice to anyone, not speaking from someone who's like a successful person,
Yeah, but you got grants.
but I think that you've got to I would put more in.
effort. More grants and
Make sure they're of a particular standard.
but okay.
But get them in all the
So if
time.
there's the option of
Because you've always got a chance, I think.
and I think that's exactly
Depends
the
on who
feedback
reviews it.
I've had is that the kind of sample noise is large, and so the solution is everyone's got these kind of anecdotal pieces of information where they say that was such a good idea, it was such a good grant, I spent ages working on it and it didn't get funded.
Yeah.
And then people have got the opposite true where they just kind of whack it in, it was kind of done at the last minute and it managed to get funded.
Yeah, and I've had one like that, which makes me kind of. I mean, just thinking about you get in these, you probably get, 10% of the grants.
Yeah.
They're just amazing.
Right. And
You know,
like,
they're
there's
gonna
no way
get-
this isn't going to get funded.
It
It's
takes
just
a lot, and then you get another 10%, which are not good.
Right.
Which
aren't. Yeah.
They're not. There's significant, and then you've probably got 70 or 80% of grants which are of a very good standard.
Right. So if you
Which are
reran the
jostling.
same panel 10 times.
That's a very interesting experiment. I'd
Yeah.
love to see tried. I would really like to see it tried. My prediction would be, amongst the grant in that thing,
Yeah.
I think it would be 2/3.
So you think a third is in the noise?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's my opinion, but
So
that's just my guess. That's a hypothesis.
No, I mean, it's interesting. A
I
hypothesis
don't know whether
worth
I don't know
testing,
whether other people would agree with me or whether that's a controversial thing to say even. But
Nick. Well, there you go. Nick
Yeah.
Evans, controversial scientist.
You wanna rap to the sounds of the past. Pulled on your money, got some pole in your glass. If I didn't have the internet, just see a Game of Thrones. But still I have some fun to finish like telephone.
I want to talk about Sherlock Holmes.
which one? The one from the 1800s or Bernie Camber Ditch?
You mean Benedict Cumberbatch?
That's the fella.
Bernie Cumberbatch.
When he's in the ones with the Hobbit.
Yeah, no, not
Basically, Spock and the Hobbit. It's like a superhero film when they
What a
match
career.
things up.
What a
Batman v
career.
Superman.
Yeah.
Spock versus the Hobbit.
Hobbit.
Can you imagine a world
And he
with
would just-
Spock and the Hobbit?
They could just be like the
How
same
would they
person going
interact?
backwards and forwards.
So you'd have Frodo or Bilbo
Yeah.
and Spock.
Yeah,
It would be that's like an odd couple relationship.
Bilbo and Spock. I don't think it would work. I think Spock would just be he's a bit of a dick, Spock. Isn't he?
I
He's
like
just
I like Spock, but I don't like him in the new Star Trek films.
You
I
don't?
liked him when he was coldly logical. He's
Right.
too emotional in the new Star Trek film.
Well, he is half human, isn't he?
No, but in the original ones, he was very Vulcan,
Yes,
and they've
very.
humanised him to an excessive degree. Now he's like a surly
So
teenager.
you're a Nimoy Spock fan.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't understand how anyone could be anything different.
So in your, he is the only Spock.
yes,
There is not another Spock,
the new Spock I don't like because he's too surly and adolescent.
right?
I don't like him.
I kind of agree. But anyway, shall we go?
No, I also want to ask you about accents in Hobbits.
Accents and
Since
Hobbits.
we're on the topic.
Yeah, go on then.
Could Samwise Gamgee have had any other accents apart from Country Bumpkin?
Could he have been from the West Midlands?
Yeah, can you imagine Fred?
Is it-
Oh, Sam, we're going to go into Mordor.
Yeah.
All right, Frodo. Well, I've got the rabbits. We can eat the rabbits later on.
That would be
Did
good.
it work?
Or Scottish, maybe.
So Frodo goes, oh,
Was this
Sam,
a-
so we'll go and meet the Ents in...
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't meet the Ents. So,
Did-
yeah,
okay.
never mind. But imagine, we're going to meet the Ents in Entwood. I hate... See it? I'll take my bar. He couldn't be in Scottish.
No.
How about French?
French.
Oh, Frodo. Sorry, Samwise. We need to go and visit Saruman and
But
Isengard.
they're all like that in
Oh,
Hobbit.
Monsieur Frodo.
well, we can later on we can go.
This outrageous accent.
Could never have had another
Yeah,
accent.
I mean, but all of the hobbits were from the West Country, weren't they?
They were all like that, weren't they? No, they
Even-
weren't. No, they
even-
weren't. No.
Even Bilbo.
No, they weren't from the West Country. They were like Frodo and Bilbo were kind of just Middle England poshos.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin were Scottish.
They are Scottish, you're
Yeah,
right.
or I think was one Scottish and one kind of Irishy, but they were definitely regional. And then
is
Samwise and
there
all the
anything-
other
is
all
there
the other
anything in
bumpkins
the-
were all like we're from the Archers.
Well, because Tolkien was famously a linguist, right? So you wrote. So I wonder if he wrote that in. Is it in the original? Is it in the books? Is there anything about the accent of the hobbits in the book?
No,
Oh.
there's not. I mean, he
So
was
that was
from,
all Peter Jackson's
he
imagining.
was living in Warwickshire, I think, when he wrote most of them.
Right.
But a lot of the place name, because I live in Hampshire now, and there's a place called Mickle Delving.
That's a good name.
But there's a place near me called Mickledever.
Right.
Or Mitcheldever or Mitchell Delving. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Right.
So, anyway, I think we're going off topic with the Hobbit. Quite like
Back
it.
to Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I like talking about the Hobbit.
So you know, I'm associated with a college here in Cambridge. So I was at lunch with someone else at the college the other day. He was telling me he just got back from Japan, and he's in Japan as one. It's actually he's a material scientist and quite a eminent scientist. And I was chatting, and he was saying he got back from Japan, and I was like, oh, did you enjoy it? He goes, yeah, I went to a brick museum. So he went to
a brick museum.
Yeah. So I was thinking, is this going to be some kind of elaborate, ornate, something beautiful that happens in Japanese culture, whereby
I thought they made all their has that paper in Japan.
So
Is that an urban myth?
but I don't know. I don't know about that. But he said no. It's literally you go into a room and there's a series of like exhibits, and they've just got different like house bricks on like a plush velvet cushion. That'd be
What?
like Anyway, so
Where's this going, Steve?
well, stay with me. So he's going there. He's having a little look, right? This is kind of a weird lunchtime conversation to be having with
Go
this
to a
person.
brick museum, yeah.
And he says, I went to, and I was like, how did you find out about this? Where did you get it from? Like, why would you even go there? He goes, well, I went to one and they had a brick from Sydney Sussex College, Cambridge. And I was like, but you spend every day in Sydney Sussex College, Cambridge. Why do you need to go see it? He goes, so I went to have a look at the brick in the middle of Japan from the college that he kind of goes in every day. And underneath it, there was a little inscription that says Sydney Sussex College, the college where Sherlock Holmes studied. Right. Right. And so I said, I was
What?
like the fictional character, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Like we don't have it. Oliver Cromwell studied here, right? You think you would pick an actual real famous alumnus.
Did Sherlock Holmes come to Sydney Sussex College?
Well, so then
in the books?
So I dug a little deeper and I said, well, I didn't know that. Is that true? In the original Sir Arthur Conan Doyle books, was
When you
there
say
any
you dug
reference?
a little deeper, you Googled it.
No. I spoke to. We carried on the
Oh,
conversation.
you had a oh, right, okay.
And so I said, why is it? Is
Old-fashioned.
it true? So in the books, there's nothing in the books about where he studied, right?
You read them all, did you?
No, but listen to the story. My colleague I was chatting to said, well, actually, they did a study, and this is the type of thing that Cambridge colleges do. So someone said, like, where was the college that So where is Sherlock Holmes most likely to have studied? Because he was clearly an educated man. He was very so at the time.
Oh, this is annoying. What the?
So in the books it says he matriculated in 1852. It says that in the books, right? So he got his degree in 1852, and they looked at it and said, okay, so at the time probably it was either Oxford or Cambridge because they were the two kind of big universities during that time. And there's no reference to Oxford ever in any of the stories of Sherlock Holmes, but there is one of them is actually set in Cambridge. So they said, okay,
Which one?
I don't know.
All right.
And
Not
they
the
said-
Anne of the Baskervilles, are they?
No. That's right.
That's the only one I'm really familiar with.
The Speckled Band. That's a good one.
The Reichenbach Falls.
That's good. Yeah, that's the classic. That's anyway. So it was in Cambridge, and at the time they went and so someone actually in the college went and investigated this in a kind of semi-academic way, as kind of weird social scientists have the time to do. So they said at the time he was clearly an expert in chemistry, right? So which is true all the way through the books, like organic chemistry. And at the time there was only 3 colleges. There was no chemistry department in Cambridge at that
Oh
point.
my god!
There was only 3 Cambridge colleges that had chemistry chemistry
One of which
laboratories.
was Sydney Sussex.
One of them
College.
Sydney. One of them was Trinity, and one of them St John's.
So how did you rule out Trinity and St John's then?
So they went and looked at the matriculation list of 1852 at all 3 of those colleges. And in 1852, there was a T.S. Holmes that matriculated from Sydney Sussex College.
T.S. Holmes?
So they reckon he went by his middle name.
Who was T.S. Holmes? That's what
Well, we
I
don't
wanna
know. But this is that. But I just love the fact that some people have so little to do in their lives that they can actually spend serious
That's
amounts
quite
of mental
impressive.
capacity.
And they're Japanese people as well.
And so they're.
But why are they doing that?
The Japanese?
Are they like Sherlock Holmes in Japan?
I guess so. They must do, because otherwise, why would they?
It's like
say
Spinal Tap.
that? Exactly. Yeah, they're big in Japan.
Come on, Steve. Bunsen. Dolly. Internal. Why do we need Petri? Austin. Isaac. Newton. Transplanting. Hey, great! Another podcast, Steve. That was a good chat we had.
It was
this
good,
week.
wasn't it?
Yeah. It's really nice. Although the nights are drawing in. Have you noticed?
That's true. We when we started the podcast, it was in summer. Now it's winter.
It's going into winter. Do you think we'll change our mood as we progress?
I think we could have a Halloween special.
Oh yeah.
Or we could have a Christmas. We'll definitely do
We'll
a Christmas
definitely.
special.
Yeah, we've
Christmas
already
special.
decided the Christmas special.
That's
is
definitely
going to
happen.
cards.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be fun. But I enjoyed our chat this week, and I'm looking forward to next week's as well.
And so if people, other listeners like it and they want to hear more, they can find us on iTunes, on YouTube, and Twitter. I'm Steve the Chemist.
And I'm at the Evans Lab.
So please get in contact, and we'll see you next time.
Can't wait for it. Bye!